all for being here on the day before graduation. I'm Tom Griscom. I am on the Board of Regents and chaired the search committee for the president here at Chattanooga State Community College. I'm going to take upon a personal privilege, Dr. Ramsammy. I would love to be at graduation tomorrow with you all, but I'm going to be at Cleveland State. So I apologize, but I am disclosing that because Dr. Seymour asked me before I got the invitation here. So I will be thinking about you as we're up at Cleveland State tomorrow. It has been a great week. I hope you all have had an opportunity to meet all of our candidates. And now particularly Dr. Roger Ramsammy, who I have to tell you all, last night we've had dinner with every candidate. He came in off the groom shuttle, sat down for dinner, having just gotten off a plane from China. And I told him that my wife and I, we have a daughter in Korea, and we know what this is like. And we would be in no shape like he is right now. And so I'm going to have a private conversation with Roger so he can tell me what it is. I think part of it is I'm much older, so age does matter here. But again, Roger, welcome. And so let me tell you a little bit about Dr. Ramsammy, if I may. He has been the provost at NOVA, which is the Northern Virginia Community College System, one of the largest in the country. He's at the Manassas campus, and just so everybody understands, the provost is the chief executive officer on the campuses. So he is sort of the person there that's putting all the pieces together. Prior to that, he's been in the classroom. He was in the classroom for about 19 years. 18. And he got recognized in Florida for his work as a faculty member and got recognized for it. And so I share that with you too, so he's got clearly an understanding of the classroom. He's gone from being a tenured professor to a department chair, an associate division dean, and then a dean of academic affairs. And now, as I said, he's the provost at NOVA. So he's got a broad set of experiences. One of the other things I learned last night is he is a very creative person. He's created textbooks to be used in anatomy and physiology, where you can actually go in and sort of like having the human body there in front of you. So he will probably tell you a little bit more about that work. He earned his doctorate in molecular biology at Howard University and completed postdoctoral work at Georgetown University's Lombardi Cancer Institute. He is also at NOVA been tapped to lead the whole STEM initiative for the NOVA system. And he's well aware of STEM that's on this campus, so again, I think it's an area where he's got some things he can share. I've kidded him that, that this community college does not have a soccer team. That's what got him to America. And so you may have a club soccer program here if Roger ends up being the president at Chattanooga State. He is married, he's got 3 children, and all 3 of his children are products of the community college system. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Roger Ramsammy.
And so, thank you very much. Thank you very much for allowing me to be here today. It's certainly a privilege. After coming to this campus and taking a walk around, actually somebody was speeding, I need some speeding tickets to be written up, around the campus to see some of the places, I can tell you, fascinating beyond. I am Roger Ramsammy. I am married. My wife is a nurse. She's a product of the community college. She got an RN from a community college, Palm Beach Community College, before it became Palm Beach State College. My son, also a product of the community college, heading on to school, medical school. My daughter, 16 years old, in her last year as high school, doing dual enrollment at community college.
Excuse me, Dr. Ramsammy, can we turn this on?
Yeah.
I want you to, the problem is that when you are on the microphone, it is very clear on the video. If the microphone is not on, it will not show up well on the video. And we want people to be able to really hear that in an archived version. Is that on now? We're both on?
Am I on? Yes. That was the secret. So my daughter, 16 years old, is a dual enrolled student. My young one, 12 years old, is entering her last year. Shada, she's entering her last year in middle school, but she's a product already of the community college because she's involved in the robotics programs that we run through the NOVA system. So she is intimately involved with it, and I expect that since the whole family is part of the community college system, maybe I'll go back and get an associate degree myself. So I'm a faculty by heart. In my heart, I have lived my life as a faculty. I think like a faculty. I do things remembering the works of a faculty member. I spent 18 years in Palm Beach Community College as a tenured full-time faculty member, and I can tell you that my experience there and what I have served in the roles that I've served, it have really grounded me and gave me a true understanding of the needs of students. I can tell you that if today I'm standing here and I didn't have that experience, I probably would not be able to serve you very well as a president. It is what I experienced in the classroom that has really gave me the tools to understand what is needed for student success. I know this, and I jumped to it because I wanted to say to you that when I first went to Palm Beach State College, we are now a state college, we was a community college. When I first went there, I went into a region where it's very diverse. There were students, lots of students who were coming in where English was the second language. And I was teaching microbiology, anatomy, and physiology in the community college, teaching medical bacterial and virology in the medical school. And I can tell you that science was a second language to a lot of the students who I was teaching. And think about that. That's a difficult task if you don't understand the type of students that you're dealing with. So teaching sciences, that's actually a third language to some of those students. And so I had to find lots of ways of reaching out to students, lots of different ways. And I talked about this, that if you read my resume, you would learn that in 1998, I would be making animations of the things that are happening and converting them into different languages because I knew what I had to do to reach out to those students. The passing rate for science at that time for students were about 45%. I couldn't have that in my classes. And then I began doing green screen movies, putting myself inside of the heart, holding on to valves, you name it, doing whatever it is that I had to do to make sure that the students understand. You see? Being able to tap on something and convert it instantly into a different language so that they can understand it, but then go back. But the idea is about creativity. What do you do? What are the tools that are needed for student success? And so I have lived in that life, and I have been pulled into positions as dean and associate dean to do a bigger role, which is when I became the associate dean of math, engineering, and science, it was to help all of the faculty members to try to do some of the things that I was doing so that we can reach out to even more students and make sure that they're successful. And then when I became dean, again, the same thing, to reach out to even a bigger community. My college at the time, we were serving 31,000 students there. And that's a humongous amount of range to have failure. Since moving to Northern Virginia, when I entered into that college, Manassas campus, the college was at a point where it needed to be visible to the community. It was not seen. Not that you should know this, but the campus is actually in the battlefield region. So yes, it's already hidden, but guess what? The community did not know we existed in many ways. And so it was my job to make sure that what happened on the campus was seen into the community. So it was a different task at hand. Today I come before you because of a college that I heard about 4 years ago when I was at STEM Tech. So somebody out there might want to ask me, why do I want to come here? So I'm answering somebody say, you like to ask the question and answer it, so I'm asking the question and answering it. Why? Why do I want to come here? 4 years ago, I was at a STEM Tech conference. And I walked along, and there were several doors, people were presenting, and in one of the doors, it was crowded. People were standing to the back. And I wanted to know what's going on inside of there, because I'm normally bored inside of those things because nobody's saying anything new. And when I dipped in, someone from Chattanooga was in there talking about what they were doing. But at the time, I did not pay much attention, so when I had gone back home, I told my president, you should find out about some schools called Chatter something. But they seem to be doing a lot of great things up there. 2 years ago, I went to Atlanta, and when I went to Atlanta, I saw it all happened again. This college that is doing things that no one else is doing. So you may be wondering, why do I want to come here? 2 years ago, I paid more attention to what you were doing. And I took lots of it back with me, trying to emulate some of the things that is being done here. But after doing a walk around earlier on, I realized there's no way that I could even come close because of what is happening on this campus. It's far beyond the reach of where I am. We are limited because of the location that we are in, being in the battlefield, being surrounded by federal park authorities. Try to fight with them to take a building higher than the trees, you're in trouble. So, not to go on and on and on, that's who I am. I'm someone who truly understands what it is that's happening inside of a classroom, and from there is able to work with faculty, staff, administrators to make that the very place that allows for students to be successful. And I know lots of different ways of making it happen. And so I would allow you then to ask questions.
Okay, we know how this is. Many of you have been here before. Please speak into the microphone when you answer or ask a question, and also tell who you are and where you work so that Dr. Ramsammy will be able to address your question appropriately. So who on this side has a question? Joe and I have a little competition going on, but who would like to ask a question? Here we go.
You lost.
Come on.
Good afternoon and welcome to Chattanooga State. I'm Kathy Ebel. I'm an Assistant Vice President in the Student Affairs Division, and most of my years here have been spent working with the students who have disabilities of one kind or another. Here in Tennessee, the legislature last year, I think it was, passed a law essentially saying that all institutions of higher education must make their educational programs fully accessible to students with disabilities, and that includes technology, textbooks, anything that's going on in the classroom and even outside of the classroom. So I'm wondering what your experience in that area might be and how you're going to get behind this initiative here on this campus.
And so that's a very important area, and one of the areas that we put in at the very beginning of the semester, when we have convocation, when all faculty is coming back, we implement inside of our plan a discussion between our disability officers and all the faculty so that they clearly understand what is needed by them to do as far as disability. We work with our campus operations director who manages the campus and makes sure that facilities are available for disability services to make sure that they can think about areas, look at every single thing that's happening to make sure that it's available for them. Our library services to make sure that in the library there are many different platforms that are available for students who have disability to be successful. We try to think of every single thing that we can do, and once we think about it, we actually do it. So here it remains a high priority because we also know that when you ignore it, what the consequences could be. And that's the part that must scare everyone. Because sometimes from the slightest thing that goes wrong, the entire college name can sink. And then you have to think a lot about what you could have done. For the investment of maybe a few $1,000s, you could have saved the college from a major disaster. And we don't play that at all. Yeah.
Good afternoon. My name is Bob Jackson. I'm the Director of Environmental Safety So coming from Virginia, Virginia is the epicenter of disasters, if you will, from the campus shooting at Virginia Tech. And so I was hoping you could talk a little bit about how that might have affected y'all's campus, whether it was state legislation or that sort of thing, and anything you might see that could help us improve emergency management here.
Yeah. Well, I think it's the same type of answer that I would give to you. You know, I spent some time at Harvard University trying to understand how to think about that which have not yet happened, but that could happen. And I used to stretch my brain trying to figure out, and I get my staff, everyone involved, to start thinking a lot about what could happen that have not yet happened. Walk around the campus, try to think a lot about it, and let us prepare for it. Because sometimes it's the best way. If you think something can happen, let us then do the following. Do something about it, because the consequences is the same, as I mentioned before, with disability. Do you see? And so it's really trying to stretch the imagination and figure out what can we do to prevent the simplest thing that can cause a bigger issue and spoil the college's name at the same time. So I hope you understand that it's a big deal for me, and why I took time to go learn at Harvard how to deal with such an issue. And we build teams around it too.
Good afternoon. I'm Gladys Pineda-Loer. I'm the Director of International Community Outreach. And I already heard what you mentioned about the immigrants and ESL and translating to different languages in so many ways. I just was wanting to hear a little bit more about, in your campus, Doctor, how is the Global Center? If you can talk a little bit about that initiative that you brought into the campus.
Oh, sure.
Thank you, sir.
When I first got on board, one of the things that I did was run data analysis on all of the elementary schools that surround my campus. I looked at 13 elementary schools, and in so looking at them, I found out in the elementary now, so we're thinking of the ages, right? Found out that between 60 and 93% of those colleges were Latino-based. And in so doing, it prompted me to understand, well, first to begin, my campus have to be prepared for something that's going to come my way in about 8 to 10 years, and that is a Latino population that's coming onto my campus who lives in a certain way where Spanish, the Spanish language, is still going to be what? Heavy at home. And so I'm looking at a population that's not very willing to do what? To step out of the bounds. And so I know, because my mother is from Venezuela, and I know the culture that is inside of there for them. In so doing, I also began looking at the dropout rate. And when I saw that there was a heavy Latino dropout rate at the high school level. As I drove along the main highways, I can see in the early mornings pockets of individuals waiting for jobs in the morning time. Heavy populations waiting for jobs. And so I began to bring in the faith-based leaders and others in the community, businesses and others, and have them begin to talk about what can we do. And one of the recommendations that was given was really about creating a center, and so we created the Global Learning Center. And the Global Learning Center is based in one of our busiest malls, and the whole idea behind it is for these individuals to seek out individuals, community members who need support. And we average about 117 individuals who we send down to the main campus to get the very support that they need. We also reach out to communities. So communities who have events, we go out to the communities and try to talk about what we can offer in terms of support. We work with some of the small businesses so that some of the small businesses, we don't have a small business development center, but we do have the county's development center, small business development centers. So we work with all the small businesses that are trying to get off the ground and have them work with these small business development centers to do what? To grow their business, to get whatever help that they need. So the Global Learning Center is global in the sense that it's not only, it's working with community members, it's working with students who drop out of the high schools, it's working with folks who are, who have businesses that needs to grow, who need some help. Because, it is the community. If the community becomes strong, the college becomes strong. The college can keep supporting the community grows, there's more jobs, our students have a place to go. So it's that circle, that circle that we're trying to do what? To meet. And I'm very active when it comes to the international. In fact, we're working with ANAPISI right now, which is the Asian American population, because they have passed the 10% marker. After 10%, you could apply for an ANAPISI grant. We were just deemed eligible and given the opportunity to apply for our first grant. On May 12th, I get to go to the White House to talk a little bit about what happened as far as our ANAPISI grant and present some of the information that allowed us to prepare for our Asian American. But in so getting that grant, it does not only target one population, it targets what? All of the different underserved population. In fact, the entire college gets to utilize the resources that come from it. Last thing too is that we are trying to become HSI, which is another grant. HSI is Hispanic Serving Institution. We are close. We are about at least 7% away. So at this particular point, the Department of Education has given us the opportunity to now link up with one Hispanic serving institution where we can be coupled with them and they can walk us through the process. So we have been given the opportunity to work with Miami-Dade College, which we are about to get ready to work with Miami-Dade College as soon as our new president comes on board. And our new president is actually the chancellor for the North Carolina system. He's going to be our new president. NOVA is a big system, so we need someone who can run his system, a mini system. And so he's coming in. Once he's on board, we plan to produce for him our next steps for making us an HSI coupled school. So that funding that's going to be given to Miami-Dade is going to be given back to us in many ways so we can create lots of student success initiatives that would support those students so they can get out of the campus and on to bigger things.
Good afternoon. My name is Michelle Olson, and I'm the director of our educational outreach programs, which includes our Student Support Center, as well as services for veterans, adult students, and workforce development students. Research is very clear about student engagement and the relationship it has with student retention. And so I'm wondering what your day-to-day method for engagement with students is, and then also with faculty and staff.
Okay. So I'm going to say that in your question is really surrounding how do I get around to find out what student wants, what faculty, how do I engage with faculty and so forth. And so I'm going to give you, first thing first, let's talk about the students. Actually, just about 2 weeks ago, I had a student town hall meeting. And that student town hall meeting is one that we plan to have every single semester. And the idea is it's our way to do what? To connect with the students and find out what they're doing. In fact, one of the things that I learned from the very last one is about our students' willingness to want electronic textbooks. They want it really bad, to cut down on prices. And so, guess what? I was part of a group that wrote one for anatomy and physiology. So it's right up the alley of what it is that I would have loved to see happen inside of our classrooms is more faculty being able to access these books that give a free textbook to students. So it was really good to hear that from there. Of course, students always have other issues such as the food in the cafeteria and parking and those things. Those are common. But engagement is in that way. We have lots of students club. We just started the one for engineering, where our students, I gave them the funding, my campus gave them the funding to build a drone. So that created a nice thing to have the students who are in the engineering department come together and do something as a group and give feedback to us. Students who, so in terms of our students, that's one way that I try to do it. And I'll tell you, there is something called 15-minute dating with the provost. And so I tell you about it because I don't want anybody stealing it now. So if you didn't give me the job, don't tell the incoming president about my 15-minute dating. That's mine. 15-minute dating with the president. We do it for the students. We do it for the faculty and staff. And the idea is this. There's a lot of things that you and I could talk about inside of here. Are you open? Are you really open to tell me everything for everybody to hear? Chances you probably wouldn't want. There's some things you just want to share with me, you see? And so I have that moment where you can just pick which 15 minutes you want. I sit by my desk with my water, and you come in and you tell me. The whole 15 minutes is yours. Tell me. If you feel like talking about your family only, go ahead and talk about it. If you feel like talking about theater show last night, do it. But if you feel like telling me about your needs and your wants, or if you feel like telling me about things that need to be fixed, that's your moment to do it. And we do that. I do that because it's one way of reaching out. I have coffee hour. I try to do that coffee hour because here again, I shift it at different times because I need to figure out the different times. As a faculty member, when coffee hour was done, I know my teaching schedule. It's all over the place. It's never at the time that I can get there. So I always missed it. So I move it around so that I can cater the day, evening, nighttime. Well, I didn't do the nighttime, but now that I'm telling you, I better go back since this is on video. The nighttime one have to come. So if you're up there listening to me, whoever you are, nighttime is coming. But I try to figure out all different ways because one of the biggest problems that you could find is communication. You know, we had a retreat the other day, and my staff, we all went out. And we went out, I said, this entire thing is based on communication. We have to figure out, as a group, how do we make sure that information is transparent and communicated to everyone? What do we do? Why are we missing it? I always get very upset if a faculty member or a staff member comes up and says, oh my goodness, I never heard about this, and they show it to me. And then I know that it went out by email. It couldn't just go out by email. It has to go out in different ways. There must be different ways to get the information out because I remember as a faculty, I used to tell my provost at the time, I said, every time you sent me an email, I used to take it and throw it inside of my trash can. I never read it. It's true. I mean, be very honest with you. Where's Kim? Is she here? So, you know, the thing is, when I became a dean, I had to tell her that the truth of what I did when I was a faculty. I used to dump it in the trash. I don't have time for the things that were going on. I'm busy doing all these other things, you know. So when I became a dean, I told her, listen, what you have to do is give those emails to someone else, let them send it out. So when you send out yours, everybody pay attention, you see? Because somewhere along the line, there must be a way that the communication, the information comes to you, you see? And we all take it for granted. I mean, many a times when I get very upset when I find out that why didn't this information, you know, we send out these emails and then people still say that, you know, they didn't know about it. And so we have to find different ways of communicating and make sure that it's effective. So hopefully everybody would be able to, in my 15-minute dating, come tell me, what else can I do? I'm very open to it, yeah.
Hi, I'm Bill Norman, and I'm a member of tech support in the library. And my question is, what is your vision for the library's role in enhancing student learning outcomes and student retention? Mm-hmm.
So I walked into your library today, and I can say, yes, you have the infrastructure that would allow for us to think 21st century where we should be. You know, I mentioned in my earlier interview that I went to do a reading in an elementary school, and I had the little book that they told me that we were going to read. And when I got in there with my hard book, I see all the students pull out their iPads. I felt, what was going on here? Here, I normally have the iPad, and I walk around, and I do my stuff. And now I switch it because I'm thinking in the elementary they're going to have their little book. And here they're all pulling out their stuff on iPads, you see? So I say this because one of the very first things that I did when I went to Nova Manassas, one of the very first things that I did was I called out on my dean for the library. And I told the dean for the library, you have to think about what it is for the 21st century. And I tell you, you have to think about it because here's why. In my online book, on the book that I can open up for you on my iPad, you can see in those books right now that you can open 3D molecules and open bonds and do things with it that you have on there. And if students are learning from those electronic versions, I really don't know how long those textbooks or those library books are going to be in there. Then in the 21st century, look, it's almost that when a student have an iPad, those books are going to be converted in the electronic version, and that when a student walks through the door, there's going to be a signal that will tell that book to connect to all the books inside of the library. And we foresee that these could be the things to come. So why not begin to do what? Plan accordingly. So if we're going to rebuild, which you have a beautiful library, but hopefully the infrastructure is there for what's to come. Because as you know, the technology is what? Changing very quickly. And the way it changes is going to also affect the way the faculty have to use it. Because here, faculty have to be always trained. You have to provide the support so that faculty knows what you're doing. It cannot be done in a silo. Because, you know, side by side, we're supposed to be doing what? We have students, we send them down to the library. If I'm an English professor and I send my students down there to learn one of the APA style or something, I need to know that you have the what? The ability to provide them the support that they need to understand what they were supposed to do. So we have to do what? Connect as faculty and the library. So with what's planned or what's to come for the future of libraries, I would hope that we begin to do what? Plan for that. Put everything that is, as far as infrastructure is concerned, in place, and hope that we could continue to support the technology from both sides, faculty working with the library services to provide that support, because it's going to be essential. Performance-based funding is coming. Retention is very, very important for us to increase those graduation and transfer rate, and it's going to play a major, major role. Between you, students, the student success folks, it's everything that's going to happen with Tennessee Promise, with sales, with Tennessee Reconnect, with the high school, collegiate high school. With all of that in place, you're going to have an outburst on this campus. And I would hope that everything, all of the infrastructure is put in place, and the library is also very prepared to handle what's to come.
Greg Jackson, Assistant Vice President of Information Technology. If you're selected as our next president, what will be your priority for your first 100 days?
All right. You sure you didn't want to give me at least 6 months here? Somebody gave me 6 months earlier. You're mean, you know. You know, first if you can understand this, I'm not coming from within, right? I'm not coming up from within, so I don't know the details of what's happening. I don't know the issues like you know them, right? I know I can pull you aside, and if I ask you to whisper to me about really what's going on with you, you can tell me things, it's not published out there. So in my first 100 days, I have to do the what? The 15-minute dating. I have to do the what? The open forum. I have to come and sit in your office and find out what's going on. You have to tell me, because if you don't tell me, how would I know what to do? Isn't the strategic plan supposed to be put in place this coming year for the next? How would I know? The strategic plan has to be what? Built according to the issues that are facing us and where we want to do what? Go. So if I'm coming in here, my first 100 days is going to be a lot of what? Listening. A lot of what? Meeting. We're going to argue. I'm going to just listen, and you're going to tell me. If I have to talk, this would be the most you've ever heard me speak. After today, when I come back next time, all you do is you talk to me. I'll just take notes. But yes, and so we want the team. We want the team to be with us, the cabinet, to be with us to hear what the issues are. When you want to talk to me one-on-one, we would use our 15-minute dating. But I hope you do understand that I would need the time to figure it out. If I was here, it would be a different 100 days in office.
I have a question. I'm Eva Lewis, from Vice President of Institutional Effectiveness. Over the past few years, we have been extremely innovative, and new programs, new ideas coming pretty rapidly, to the point where we often felt that We couldn't even really implement or think about one idea before a new one came along. The economy, the environment is changing rapidly, but we also have to have time to assimilate and get buy-in and implementation. You've done a lot of innovative things as well at your campus, especially around workforce development and whatnot. So how would you approach that with us without taking us through such rapid change that we can't really keep up with it?
Yeah, so first let me just answer this. If you don't fix your home, you can't deal with the outside. You have to fix home first. So building, rebuilding, fixing the issues that are in here, that 100 days when you're walking around, you're learning about what needs to be done, has to be one of the first things that we pay attention to. What is working inside of the college that needs a boost? What's not working that needs to do what? To be revamped. Let's fix the inside. Let's figure out what needs to be fixed on the inside. And after doing that, we can then worry about what? How the outside would look, you see? Because I can tell you this. Imagine there is businesses on the outside that are requesting services from us. And in the request, we jumped the gun and said, busy, all about it, sounds good. And then when we get to it, we find out we don't have the what? The resources or the services that would allow it to blossom. Then what happens to us? Our name, our what? Our dignity and pride, it's all gone. And the morale, yeah, for everyone. Destructive, isn't it? I remember as a faculty member when we were told, hey, you have to serve on this committee, and we will go and we will serve and we will bust ourselves digging into all of the details, and then where we are, we selected 3 candidates and give to the group, and then we find out they went down and take someone else from somewhere else. Why did you ask us to do what we did for you? Recommend you these candidates, you know? So it used to be pretty hurtful when sometimes you asked to do these things, and then at the end of it, it meant nothing to someone else. So.
Hello, Darren Hosseford. I'm the Dean of Humanities and Fine Arts. And I have 2 questions. I think they're related to each other. But would you explain the role and the value you see of general education in a student's education at the college, and then also the role of the arts and how you see them playing into the education of a student?
Okay, so in general education, you're talking about someone doing an AA degree, for example, and moving through. So we know that we talk about the community and the dependence on us to survive, businesses and other places. But we also have the other areas, such as the universities, that require support from us. Because a lot of times today, universities will use, where I am, we almost consider the first 2 years of George Mason University. I mean, they are already looking at us to get all of their what? Their transfers. We are their first and second year. Some of the other universities, we can consider that because we're close to what? Almost 47% of our students transfer into their program. So we're really the majority of the students that they get. And so how do I value it? You know, everybody's not going to be a what? A machinist. Everybody is not going to be an auto technician. Everybody's not going to be a welder. There are many other things that we do. You know, for example, if you walk into a doctor's office, you have maybe 1 medical doctor, maybe 2 nurses, and everybody else may have what? High school or maybe an associate degree. You see? So how do I value it? The majority of the people may have the what? The lesser degree. So the majority of workers need to have that lesser degree. Very few people go on to do the other things, you see? So if you ask, is it valuable? Yes, because it is valuable because a lot of the businesses function at that level. That's the employment rate is there. A lot of the universities depend on our students to carry on in terms of developing their advanced programs. Very valuable. And how do I look at the arts? Well, I think of myself when I was a student. When I was a student, everything about me, my journey towards earning my degree, wasn't for the arts. I may not have been as well-rounded a student or successful. I look at my son. I often wonder when he was in school, if it wasn't for the arts, if he would have been who he is today, a student who is now looking towards doing things that I myself may not be able to do. So it does play a major role in allowing students to have those interpersonal skills, develop things that they probably would have never developed had they just picked one particular area and just gone on with it, you see?
Good afternoon. Delnita Evans, Student Life and Student Activities. I have a question regarding our site campuses. Chattanooga State has 5 campuses. How would you make sure that you reach out and connect with those campuses and keep them included, because some of them are rural areas? How would you as the president make sure that they feel as though that they're a part and stay a part of Chattanooga State?
And so that's a very good question too, because we do have sites that are, distant sites. And let's just take Nova as a system, first to begin. We have 6 campuses spread out very far in different counties. And one of the things that we do is every month we rotate our executive sessions at different campuses. See? And this way, what happens in that rotation is, guess what? Everybody feels, those campuses feel like they're part of the whole process. And so you start with a simple thing like that. A simple thing like that. Make visits. As president, you are supposed to be doing what? Making visits to those campuses and understand the needs and the wants of those campuses. And so you do that, the campuses understand what's supposed to happen. Events. You don't house all of your events there, you hold certain events on those different sites and make them feel like they're part of the whole process. I mean, that's just a simple version of how you do include them. But then there are other parts of strategic allocations. What do you have on the campus, and how do those things play a role as far as in the big picture? What kind of role do they play? Are they strategically placed because they're there to serve a population that's within that vicinity? You see? And so when you look at those kinds of things, then you can figure out how can you do it. Provide for them, how can you do things that would allow them to feel like they're part of the system.
Hello, Dr. Ramsammy. I'm Wanda Gocha Johnson. I'm in Disability Support Services also, but this is not a disability question, so you say. Being from Virginia, tobacco is king, and that's true in Tennessee. What do you feel about a smoke-free campus, and is your current campus smoke-free?
Okay, you had to go there, didn't you? Let me go back to Palm Beach State. In Palm Beach State, when I was there, smoking was on the campus. And we had to, it really involved a lot of work, a lot of collaboration between the students. The student was the key. Let me tell you, the student was the key to all of this. You get the students to work with you on this, you are walking, you could hide behind them and just really get this done. It works beautiful when you have the students supporting you on this. When we were at Palm Beach State, that's what we did. We had the student. The student are the ones who led the process because they wanted it. And, we were able to slowly get buy-in from everyone and move smoking out to the parking lots. And I can tell you, it didn't cause much of a problem. The few people who were making the problems, guess who? I'm ashamed to tell you this. Huh? Faculty, yeah. So my own buddies were the ones who would have a problem. But that's only because they didn't want to walk all the way out in the parking lot and do their smoking. But eventually, it becomes part of the norm. I just came out of China. Do you know, when I went into the hotel, I can smell smoke, and the lady said, the first floor is the non-smoking, all the others are. I said, you better make sure that I go in the non-smoking. I go in the room and the whole room still smells of smoke. I go into the restaurants, smoke. People are smoking, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, here is a situation where we are so far back when it came to a country where technology is way beyond even what we have here, and here is smoking are still all around. And they have a far, far distance to go than we have. So we have, in the United States, we've gone very, very far. In the schools we have done, where I am right now, we have built these little sheds. They're beautiful. In fact, our engineering students are building these solar panels to put in there to help feed lights or plug in their iPhone, so when they're smoking, they can have their thing. Their thing charged. So they're making good amenities to help the smokers, because they're human beings and they need to get their little nicotine. It's okay, but do it out in a particular site. Eventually, and they're not interfering with anyone because we keep them in safe grounds, you see. But eventually, it will go away because less and less people are going to start, use it, and it will go away in time. But students are the key. You get the students behind this initiative, it will work. And of course, if you give me the presidency, I'll make sure it happens.
Steve Huskins, I'm over facilities here. What's your opinion on in-house services as opposed to outsourcing?
Can I ask you to elaborate a little more? As an example, what are you talking about?
Maintenance custodial.
Oh, okay. So, all right. Well, I can tell you this. On my campus where I am, we have services that are controlled from a central office, and I'll tell you what happens. We have several services that are controlled by a central office, and it sort of take away the controls that I have over them. And I knew that if we had those services under my watch, under my direction, or my supervision, my folks would have been able to get a better handle on the things that happen on there. So would I like to keep them in-house? I would much prefer to have them in-house because I have more control over the cost. I have more control over what happens on the campus, do you see? So yeah, it would be a good thing for us. But we do have some contractual services, like our cleaning services, which when you work the funding, it actually balances off to about the same. And we do get good service, because if we don't, they know they're threatened by us going and finding someone else. So they do rise very far above. So it depends again on the type of service that you're talking about, which one. If it's security services, for example, versus if it's janitorial services and those things, it poses a different issue for us. I personally would like for it to be in-house so that we can have really good control over it.
Hello. This is not really my question, but I was looking around and I don't see students in here Friday afternoon and commencement and all of those things. They're very busy. So I'm going to ask for them, what do you like to do for fun?
Okay. Where's my soccer ball? I've been playing soccer all my life, and even when I left, I was playing in a semi-professional league in Florida before coming up to Northern Virginia. But when I got there, the problem was when the winter hit, I went into hibernation. I couldn't go outside. So I knew that soccer is not going to do too well in that region, but I am a runner also. I try to run I normally run 5 miles. I used to run it every day. Now I'm running it every other day. And that's simply because I know that I'm getting older and I don't want my knees to shut off on me. But I'm a runner. But, my daughters play a big role in my life. I used to be their math teacher, and they used to have a lot more fun with me in learning math because, again, I would do all the animation things and make it into a really fun thing. I was telling them about a game that I made. You're driving in a car on the highway, and you pick your school. So if your school is UT, that's the school over there, and you're driving the highway, and the sign pops up. Normally the sign would say, turn right for this road, left for this road, but this one says if it's a hydrogen, is it positive, negative, forward? And if you pick the wrong one, you would crash and you would go further away. So, it's really, I used to like making games, animated games, and put it into the lesson plan for them, and they loved it, So my daughters are very important to me in terms of what they do. My son, of course, too, but, he's now on his way to bigger things. So family life, spending a lot of time in Virginia. Every single weekend you can hit somewhere in Virginia that's historic for a long time. I mean, just nonstop. So we're in a region where we really enjoy going out on weekends and finding the new places, new historical things that are going on. We learn a lot, And there is my folk who is asking me about humanities and the arts and so forth. It plays a big role in you overall, how my kids, I can see the difference in them when they go out there. So yeah, running, gym, my wife and I, we do lots of gym, we try to keep it steady on the gym, make sure that we keep our bodies very healthy. And she's one, even when I open the door and it's too cold and I want to run back in my bed, she's the one who will say, no, you're going to go. So, I'm telling you, sometimes when you get up early in the morning and you're dressed and ready to go, and as you open the door and the coldness hits, you say, forget it, But, yeah, that's a little bit about what I do. Yeah.
I have another question. With state appropriations declining in Tennessee as well as all over the country, how do you think that you will deal with those issues, the challenges of funding formula, and of course the concern that we might have that we will not get as much as we do last year or we did last year or the next year? What is your approach for dealing with declining appropriations?
Well, let us think about the very issue that would allow us to maintain our enrollment and funding, performance funding, right? One of the things that we have here is a low graduation and a low transfer rate, right? We know that we have to prepare because of Tennessee Promise for a burst of students that are coming in. And we know that we have to make appropriations to do what? To deal with those students when they come in because of what? Co-enrollment. There's no more what? Developmental ed classes. So we know already that there's a problem before us. The question is, what have we done to prepare for those students? And if we understand, if we could find a solution to that, we would ultimately take care of something that's important, and that is retention, graduation, and transfer. And if you up that, you're also going to do what? Up your funding, right? So fixing the infrastructure that we have right now, reallocating our investment into good student faculty advisors, good student advisors, building a good tutoring plan so that students have support. They're not doing too well in these credit level classes. We have a support system that can immediately support them so that they do not drop out. Because the moment a student drops out, that's the what? Out the door, they're not coming back. And you and we cannot allow that to happen. When a student steps foot on that campus, we must be able to hold that student's hand and walk them right to the door and march them into the university. And if for that matter, we should be watching them in the university system because there is something in there that could come back to do what? Haunt us, right? So fixing the infrastructure, preparing for those students to be successful is high priority. And if you take care of that, you would ultimately take care of the funding that would come back into the college through performance-based funding. So that would be one of the early starts. And I would say coming in, that's where the resources have to go because we can't talk about going out to businesses and raising funds and doing all those things yet until you fix home. Remember that. Home always have to be what? Fixed first.
This comes from my experience in student affairs, because that's where I've spent my entire career here. Your experience has been primarily on the academic side. How do you see the relationship between student affairs or student services, depending on what you call it on your campus, in terms of making the college work cohesively?
My experience, it was in mostly academics before I became the CEO of my campus. When I became CEO, I'm in charge of everything on my campus. Students affairs, student advisors, counselors, they're all under my watch. And the idea is that for my campus to prepare for performance-based funding, we had to make sure that we do what? We work with student services and the library services and our faculty in order to create a unique group that can deal with the issues that would come before us. So I don't know if I might have missed off on the last part of your question. Yeah. So I do. We work very closely with student services, and we keep everyone well connected because we are one. Faculty, we ask faculty to do one set of things, which we have been doing for a long time. As faculty, we have been advising students from day one. No one asked us to do it. Today, we're going to have to ask faculty to help out with more in advising. It's a purpose move. We have to purposely ask the faculty to do what? To raise the bar and go out and do more advising. But it is student services that has to be the prep that support what the faculty is doing. Student services who have to provide a lot of the different support for us to get to that point where we have good retention, good student success for transfer and graduation.
Hi, I'm Jude Widener, continuing ed. Granted, you're going to have to do a lot inside, but once you do have this under control, what strategies are you going to do with the business community and those potential donations and interactions?
Yeah, and so eventually, with what we have seen with performance, one of the things that's happening in our community is that we have seen our budget continuously do what? Tank. And so we are at the point where enrollment in our campus is going up, but overall for the NOVA system, it's going down. But that's the same for all of the colleges across Virginia. We have been cut 7% this year again on our budget. And so we're falling in the same routine. We're falling on where we have to figure out different ways to do what? To bring in funding. And so in Virginia, we work with, I am actually part of the Northern Virginia Technology Council Circle. And so we get to work with over 500 technology companies and have those companies find ways. Remember now, companies, they're not going to come out and invest in your school unless they can get what? Some kind of return. So we are working with companies who can come in and do what? See what they can get from us, and we are presenting to them. We are at their doorstep asking them, what can we do for you, and bringing them in and trying to provide services for them. And in return, we expect some type of support. So let me explain. Right now, we have something called Systemic Solutions. And what is Systemic Solutions? It's a program where the legislature gave us $1 million, and they asked us we have to do what? Match it. The money is used to build STEM programs in all of the high schools, middle schools, and elementary schools. That's what we have to do. And why we're doing it is we're doing it because STEM is the big thing in Northern Virginia. We have to have more STEM students come out. The problem is that when students reach high school, they're gone. They're either going to go back into the little hole and forget about it, unless you can do what? Work with them from elementary all the way up. So in order to keep this going, we are now in our about 5th year of it. In order to keep it going, we keep getting these grants. We have to keep having the what? These external funders match that fund for us. So we have to work very closely with companies like Micron, Lockheed Martin, BAE Systems, many of these companies who can do what? Provide us the matching fund. What are they getting out of it? See, what are they getting out of it? And so it is making sure that we can do what? We can provide something back to those companies, even though they're doing what? Investing in our kids. In many ways, they're getting something out of it because those very kids are going to be high caliber students who come to us and then able to do what? Go back out into the community and work for these companies. But we are working closely with them, many of these companies, to invest within our college. And we could go on and on about many other ways that we invest. Northrop Grumman, for example, just gave us funding. Many of our dual enrollment students right now, many of the high schools in the K-12 system, they cannot offer enough dual enrollment right now. Why do you think they cannot offer it? Because they don't have what? Enough credentialed faculty who can teach at that level, who can be credentialed to teach at our level, the college level. And so the funding that was given to us by Northrop Grumman is to do the following. It is to go in and find those faculty members who need some of these classes that would allow them to reach that level to be credentialed. And so beginning this summer, we have a cohort of faculty members from these systems who, when they're done, they're going to be able to reach that credentialing mark. And guess what happens come fall semester? Much more dual enrollment. And so if this continues on for the next 3 years through external funding source, we're boosting our enrollment with high-level students from companies who are investing their funding to support teacher development. See? So all kinds of ways. We could go on. There are many, many other things that we are doing like that, because another thing is we are rebuilding all of the campuses. We are raising the bar. Right now, we have already spent close to $1 million this year. Over the next 2 more years, we expect to spend another 2-point-some million to rebuild all of the campuses. I'm actually the lead provost responsible for STEM build-off on the other campuses, to raise all of the labs to a level that's very high. So when those students leave the high school and come into us, they're not going to come and see antiquated materials. They're going to be at a level that's high enough that allows them to go out into the community and perform at a very good level. It's much like what I saw in your engineering and your nursing and your programs here. Really top-of-the-line instrumentations that allow people to work at the highest level. So we're doing, and again, I can go on and on about many other different forms of that we are doing. But I know people are, I can see so many hands up there bursting to ask questions.
Hi, I'm Chris Schiltz. I'm Executive Secretary of Institutional Effectiveness. We've talked a lot about successes. Can you mention a failure that you've had during your career and how you dealt with it or learned from it?
Yeah, that would be too much failures. Well, I would say one of the failures that I have was, I would go back a little bit, you know. I would go back to when I was a dean. I actually had some issues. When I was a dean, I came out like, you know, I was within this college, growing within the college. And I'm a union faculty member, tenured faculty member, and so I grew with my tenured faculty friends who, when I became dean, I thought maybe we are so latched on together, I can make decisions without really, because I used to do it before, you know, but didn't realize that I was jumping the gun and making decisions on certain things that didn't involve too much involvement from them. Because I thought, you know, we're friends, we'll be fine. The decision is about doing things that are going to make what you do in the classroom better, and I know you're going to like it. All right, big mistake. Don't think because you're a friend, just because you're dean, and they all know you, you think you can just go out and make some of those. And so they did not forget to remind me the day that I was leaving about the terrible mistake that I made when I became a dean. And so I learned about making sure that there's always what? Input from the ground up, always. Working collaboratively with folks and making sure that everybody have input and making sure it's transparent and everyone have seen and agreed to the move, you see? Not that I'm not good at making decisions. I can make decisions as you could ever imagine. I'm creative. I know how to come up with ideas on my own, but I learned, don't do it. Big mistake. So that was an early learning lesson, but a very important lesson that you really have to learn to work with people. Make sure that everybody understands their role in what's happening. Because if something goes out there and one person feels like they can't be part of it or they're left out or don't know what's going on, it could be a recipe for disaster. And that's not good. So coming in, I know, it wouldn't happen.
We won't let you forget.
Yes.
We've run out of time, and if you'd like to make a closing statement, then we will wrap up after that.
Okay.
Thank you.
So first to begin, let me just remind you again, thank you very much. I can't believe on Friday, when graduation is tomorrow, that so many of you are here. I know some of you are here because other people say, come, let's come down here and not make it look so bad. So I know some of you are just dying, like, can you just stop talking so I can get out of here? But I want you to know that I appreciate the fact that you're here. And I do thank you for giving me the opportunity to be here. This is a place that I have dreamt of. 2 years ago, that dream became even a bigger dream because I know the treasure that sits on this campus. And I know that given the opportunity to come in here, the skills that I have, and I can say it clearly, that if I did not serve as a faculty member in the classroom, I will not be able to clearly say to you that I can come in here and help make the changes that are necessary. Because of my academic background, it makes me a very solid candidate to understand how to rebuild this campus and take this campus to the very next thing called the Aspen Prize. And I heckle them all day saying that we have so much inside of here. Why can't we reach to that golden point of earning that prize? But anyway, thank you very much. And I'll be starting my journey back to Washington, D.C.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Ramsammy.
Thank you.
Well, I'm going to remind everybody that Dr. Ramsammy's time here with us is going to be archived and on our website. So if you out in the video world or here, please, if you would go back to our website, click on Presidential Search Bar, and then the candidates will come up. The videos will be there as well as a feedback form. Now, those feedback forms will be open through Wednesday, close of day. And I please ask you, if you would, to take the time to fill those out. The Chancellor has told us that he will read every one of those, and so this is your opportunity to make your opinions known. And I think he really values our opinions. This is an important decision, and TBR knows that and is supporting it very, very highly. So thank y'all for coming. I think that Dr. Ramsammy is going to be here for a few minutes if you want to come up and ask any questions privately or just greet him and wish him well. So thank you and have a great weekend. See you at graduation. Oh, pardon me, what? I wasn't sure if okay, I'm sorry. I was told that was going to be taking place here, so I apologize. Okay, so CBIH, we've got punch and cookies and Dr. Ramsammy. So yeah, that will take place immediately following this if you all want to head over there. Thank you.
Good. Now we know who wants to run.